The Hamatan breeze arrived quietly that year, but Christmas wasn't quiet in Omooma village. Every house was preparing for celebration. Women were saving money for food. Men were talking about goats, rice, and visitors. Children were counting days until Christmas clothes arrived. In Obina's compound, life should have been simple. It should have been peaceful. That was the kind of Christmas Obina always believed in. A calm celebration with his family, enough food to eat, a little music, laughter, and gratitude. But peace ended the day Chiamaka decided Christmas was a competition. It started like a casual conversation. Obina sat under the mango tree in front of their house, cutting firewood for Christmas cooking. Their two children ran around happily, arguing about who would get the biggest chicken piece on Christmas Day. Chiamaka stood watching the compound with folded arms, not smiling, not happy, not satisfied. She had just returned from visiting her elder sister, and her head was suddenly full. Chief Okori's compound across the village was already decorated. They said he planned to kill 2 cows, share bags of rice, hire live musicians, and invite the whole village to eat and dance. People were already talking. Women were praising his wife. Men were calling him the King of Christmas. And Chiamaka hated that. She turned to her husband and spoke casually at first. "Obina, what kind of Christmas are we planning this year?" Obina shrugged. "Normal Christmas. Cook well, call family, go to church, thank God and rest. Peaceful Christmas. Nothing too big. We are not rich." He meant it sincerely, but that was the exact answer that annoyed her. So that people will say we are managing, that we are suffering, that we can't compete, she snapped. Obina looked up at her slowly. Compete with who? Christmas is not a competition. It's not a festival for showing off. Let us do what we can afford. Chiamaka hissed loudly and turned away. That night, she didn't sleep. She lay down on their bed, but her mind was busy. She imagined people comparing their home to Chief Okori's house. She imagined other women laughing. She imagined people saying, even with all her fine clothes and loud mouth, their Christmas was dry. She couldn't accept that. By morning, she had made up her mind. She wanted the biggest Christmas party in Umuoma this year. Not because she loved celebration, not because she loved Christmas deeply, but because she wanted to prove a point. She wanted people to talk about her. She wanted to defeat Chief Okori's wife. She wanted power in the village women's circle. She wanted respect. And in her mind, respect only came from noise, crowd, and show-off. So she began. The next few days, she walked around proudly, measuring her compound, counting space, imagining canopies, loud music, crowds cheering. She was no longer thinking like a wife. She was thinking like a queen preparing for battle. One evening, she finally announced it. "Obina," she said, standing in front of him, voice firm, decision already made. "We are throwing the biggest Christmas party in Umuoma this year." Obina laughed because he thought it was a joke, until he saw her face. "No," he replied calmly. "We are not doing that. We don't have that kind of money. Let us do Christmas like normal people. We have bills. We have school fees after New Year. Let us be wise." Chiamaka folded her arms tighter. "So other families can shine and we will be sitting here like villagers? People will come to this house and not see anything special? My husband, are you not a man? Don't you want people to respect your family?" Obina kept his voice calm. "I don't measure my life by outsiders' opinions. If we eat well, thank God and enjoy peace, that is enough. I will not destroy my future to impress anybody." That was when the war truly started. Chiamaka flared up. "So I married a small-minded man, a man who is afraid to stand out, a man who cannot host his own people. You like small life too much." Her voice was loud enough for neighbors to hear. The children stopped playing and stared. Obina's chest tightened, not because she insulted him, but because he could already see danger. "You are thinking with pride," he said quietly, "and pride ruins homes." Chiamaka turned away angrily. From that day, there was tension in the house. She stopped smiling at him. She answered questions with anger. She carried herself like a queen whose husband had disappointed her. But Chiamaka was not the type to argue and leave an issue. She was the type to force her way. The next thing she did shocked everyone. She called her elder sister, Nkechi, and Nkechi was the worst person to invite into a problem. By the time Nkechi visited, the issue became fire. Chiamaka is right, she said boldly, sitting like a judge in their sitting room. This Christmas must be loud. People only respect families that show strength. If you don't host big, people will think you are nobody. Obina felt disrespected. So, because of strangers, he asked calmly, should I go and borrow shame? Should I spend what I don't have? What will we eat after Christmas? Nkechi rolled her eyes. After Christmas, we will think of after Christmas. Right now, you need to prove that your family is not cheap. Chiamaka deserves to shine. That night, the argument exploded again. Voices rose, doors slammed. The house that used to be peaceful became heavy. The children heard everything. For the first time in 12 years of marriage, Obina slept on the chair in the sitting room. Not because there wasn't space on the bed, but because there wasn't space for peace. And while he slept in frustration, Chiamaka lay awake smiling to herself because deep down she had already decided. Whether Obina supported it or not, she would host the biggest Christmas party in Umuoma. Christmas was getting closer, and while other families in Umuoma village were planning with joy and unity, Obina's house had become a silent battlefield. Days passed, but peace did not return. Chiamaka moved around the house like a stranger. She spoke less to her husband, but spoke more to outsiders. Whenever Obina talked, she replied with coldness. Whenever he tried to explain, she shut him down. To her, the decision was already made. She would host the biggest Christmas party. Nothing could change her mind. And she began planning behind his back. First, she started with small lies. One afternoon, she walked to the market and met the biggest event decorator in the village. I want the entire compound decorated, she said proudly. Lights everywhere, canopies, chairs, tables, balloons for children. Make it look like a festival ground. The woman smiled confidently. That will cost money, big money. Chiamaka smiled confidently. Don't worry, my husband will pay. But Obina did not know. In fact, he had no idea how deep she was going. Next, she visited the meat seller. I want a big cow for Christmas, she announced. Villagers nearby turned and stared with admiration. Some whispered, some smiled, some already began gossiping. Madam Obina is rich, oh. She wants to compete with Chief Okori. This year's Christmas go hot. The praise entered her head like sweet wine. She loved it. It fueled her more. The meat seller nodded. Deposit first. Chiamaka paused. She didn't have enough money. Their savings belonged to the family, not her alone. But pride refused her to walk away. So she did something dangerous. She went home, entered the bedroom quietly, opened Obina's drawer and took part of the family savings. She didn't ask, she didn't inform, she convinced herself she would replace it later. That was how the first betrayal entered her marriage. Days turned into weeks, Christmas drew nearer, and the lies became heavier. Debt quietly followed her. Decorators needed more money, food suppliers wanted guarantees, the musician she secretly booked demanded advance payment. Pressure began to tighten around her chest, but instead of slowing down, she increased her speed. Her sister, Nkechi, visited frequently, adding fire. You can't stop now, she kept saying. People are already talking. If this party fails, you will become a laughing stock. Just do it big. Borrow money if you must. Christmas comes once a year. Shine now, think later. And foolishly, Chiamaka believed her. Meanwhile, in the same house, Obina was breaking silently. He noticed money disappearing. He noticed movements. He noticed strange conversations. One evening, he finally confronted her. They sat in their sitting room. The children were asleep. Silence filled the house. Chiamaka, he said, voice firm but gentle. What is going on? I know you are planning something behind me. Money is missing. Strangers are coming here to measure the compound. I am your husband. Why are you hiding things from me? For a moment, she said nothing. She just looked at him. Slowly, her face hardened. Because you don't believe in me, she replied coldly. You don't support me, so I have to support myself. Obina shook his head sadly.
This is not support, he said. This is pride. This is stubbornness. This is disobedience. You are tearing our home apart. Christmas is supposed to bring families together. Instead, you are using it to destroy ours. Those words should have touched her, but pride had already taken full control of her heart. So because you refuse to think big, she shouted, we should live like villagers forever? How many times have you hosted the community? How many times have people come here and celebrated? Always small plans, always caution, always fear. Her voice rose. Her anger boiled. Tears filled her eyes, but they weren't tears of regret. They were tears of pride. Obina stood slowly. "I am thinking about our children, Chiamaka," he replied calmly. "About their school fees, about January, about the future. When this party ends, life will continue. People you are trying to impress will go home to their peaceful lives. Will they help us pay bills? Will they share our debt? No." But Chiamaka was no longer listening. Her mind had closed. "Do whatever you like," she snapped. "But this Christmas, I will not be embarrassed. This house will make noise." That night, for the second time, Obina slept in the sitting room. And this time, it hurt deeper. Not because of the argument, but because he finally understood something. The woman he married was gone, replaced by someone who valued applause more than peace, validation more than love, competition more than family. From that day forward, their house divided into two worlds. Chiamaka's world, noise, plans, secret meetings, borrowed money, empty pride. Obina's world, silence, worry, fear for the future, unspoken heartbreak. The children felt it too. They stopped hearing laughter. They stopped hearing playful conversation. All they heard was tension. One evening, the youngest child asked, "Mommy, why is Daddy always sad now?" Chiamaka forced a smile. "He will be happy soon," she replied confidently, "when everybody sees how great our Christmas will be." But she was lying, not only to the children, but to herself.
By the second week of December, Umuoma village was already alive with Christmas excitement. Children practiced carols, men discussed rice and goats, women talked about whose house would scatter the ground with celebration. And in the middle of all that talk was one name, Madam Chiamaka. Her Christmas party had become a village topic. Rumors spread faster than harmattan dust. Have you heard? She hired a popular band from the next town. They say she wants to cook 3 different soups. I heard she even ordered fireworks. People exaggerated, but Chiamaka loved it. Every rumor boosted her confidence. Every whisper fed her pride. She walked around with her head high, chin raised, chest forward, as if she already wore a crown. Inside her mind, she had already won. The race had begun. She was determined to prove that her house would be the center of attraction this Christmas. Her happiness no longer came from her family. It came from attention. Meanwhile, Obina watched in silence. He saw decorations creeping into the compound. He saw chairs arriving one by one. He saw canopies being measured. He saw people walking in and out of his house as if it belonged to them. And every day, his heart sank deeper. He didn't shout. He didn't fight. He simply observed the storm forming quietly. One evening, 3 men came to the house. They looked serious. They spoke only to Chiamaka. "We need part payment before we continue preparations," one of them said firmly. Chiamaka forced a smile. "Don't worry, you people will get your money." They didn't smile back. "We have heard that before. This is Christmas season. Many people are making empty promises. We need to be sure you are serious." Her stomach tightened. Truth was, she was already running out of money. She had borrowed from a friend. She had collected credits from the market. She had secretly taken more of the family savings, and she still owed more people. But her pride refused to slow down. So instead of telling the truth, she swallowed her fear, forced confidence into her voice, and said, "Come back in 2 days. My husband will settle everything." They nodded and left. But Obina had heard. That night, he confronted her again. They stood face to face in their bedroom, tension thick like smoke. "So now you are using my name to borrow debt I didn't agree to?" he asked quietly. Chiamaka didn't blink. "Yes, because you are my husband. Whether you like it or not, this house must shine." Obina stared at her for a long moment. "You are pushing this family into shame, and when the embarrassment comes, you will not be able to escape it." She laughed. That laugh wasn't happiness, it was arrogance. "Nothing will go wrong," she said confidently. "This will be a Christmas people will never forget." She was right about one thing. People would never forget it, but not the way she imagined. As Christmas drew closer, preparations intensified. Decorators came, drinks were ordered, bags of rice were promised, musicians confirmed attendance, children in the village counted days until Madam Chiamaka's big Christmas. Even the village women's meeting honored her. They said, "You will disgrace Chief Okori's wife this year. Your party will be the biggest. We are proud of you." Those praises became fuel. They pushed her deeper into danger. Meanwhile, Obina's respect in the village began to shake. Some men laughed at him secretly. Some pitied him. Some shook their heads whenever they saw him. "Na him wife they run am. Na him wife they walk am. This Christmas go teach am." Obina felt it. He heard the whispers, but he remained silent because arguing would make it worse. Instead, he locked himself in his own thoughts.
He thought about January. He thought about debt. He thought about his children. He thought about the embarrassment waiting for them if things collapsed. He prayed silently each night, not for Christmas to be big, but for his family to survive the consequences. But Chiamaka didn't notice. Her mind was too busy competing. One afternoon, Chief Okori's wife passed by with bags of decorations. People gathered around praising her. She smiled proudly. Chiamaka watched from her window. Something tightened in her chest again. Jealousy, competition, fire. I must outshine her, she whispered to herself. That evening, she did something desperate. She called a lone man. He arrived wearing dark glasses and confidence, the type of man nobody jokes with. You need money? He asked simply. Yes, she replied boldly. Big money. He leaned back. You must pay back in time. Christmas loans are dangerous. If you fail, we collect what we can. She hesitated, just for a second. Then pride spoke louder than wisdom. I will pay, she said. They signed the papers. She didn't tell Obina. That was the moment she truly destroyed her peace, but she didn't realize it yet. In her mind, problem solved. Money came, preparations continued. Her name spread louder. Children practiced dance because they heard there would be music in her house. Women planned outfits because they wanted to attend. Men discussed it at palm wine joints every night. Even the church mentioned it indirectly. In one Sunday, the pastor warned, let Christmas not become competition. People looked at Chiamaka. She rolled her eyes. To her, they were jealous. Days passed. Christmas Eve approached. Decorations now covered the compound. Chairs filled the yard. Food ingredients stored everywhere. People passing by stopped to admire. Her pride reached its highest point. But behind all that noise, danger was silently waiting. Death was waiting. Expectations were waiting. Shame was waiting. But Chiamaka didn't see any of that. All she saw was the crown she wanted to wear on Christmas Day. Meanwhile, inside the same house, Obina sat quietly one night, staring into the compound from the doorway. His children sat beside him. Daddy, the older one asked softly, are we really rich? Obina looked at him slowly. Why do you ask? The boy sighed. Everyone in school said we are the richest now. They said our Christmas will be the biggest. Is it true? Pain hit Obina's chest, not because of the question, but because of the lie surrounding his children. He placed his hand gently on the boy's shoulder. We are not rich, he said calmly. We are blessed, but sometimes people try too hard to look bigger than they are. And when you do that, life will humble you. The boy didn't fully understand, but he nodded slowly. Inside the house, Chiamaka was smiling, dreaming of glory. Outside the house, Obina was staring into the future, and it didn't look bright. Christmas was no longer coming slowly. It was running. And with it, a storm no one in that house was ready for. Christmas Eve finally arrived. In Omoma village, the air smelled like smoke from cooking fires, fried meat and excitement. Children ran around in new clothes. Palm wine joints were full. Church bells rang as people prepared for midnight services. Everywhere felt alive. And in the center of that excitement stood Chiamaka's compound. By afternoon, it looked like a festival ground. Bright lights hung across the yard. Canopies stretched wide. Chairs filled the open space. Tables stood neatly arranged. Decorators moved up and down. Musicians, speakers waited silently like soldiers ready for war. People passing by stopped to stare. Some admired, some envied, some gossiped, but everyone agreed on one thing. Tomorrow, Chiamaka's house will shake the village. Inside the compound, Chiamaka walked around like a queen, inspecting her kingdom. Pride sat boldly on her face. She smiled confidently at every compliment. She had forgotten every warning. She had forgotten wisdom. All she could see was tomorrow's glory. But behind that smile, behind those decorations, behind all the big plans was fear. A fear she refused to admit. Because while everything looked perfect on the outside, on the inside, nothing was truly ready. The cow had not been fully paid for. The drink supplier was still calling. The decorator wanted balance. The musicians were threatening to cancel. And the lone man had already sent a warning message. Don't embarrass me tomorrow. Pressure squeezed her chest, but pride forced her to keep pretending. She kept smiling. She kept walking proudly. She kept lying to herself. By evening, the tension finally began to show. The first problem came quietly. The meat seller appeared in the compound, his face serious. Madam, we need the remaining payment tonight. If not, I will sell that cow to another person. People are begging me for it. Her eye jumped. Tonight? She wasn't expecting that. She swallowed, forced a smile. You will get it, she said. Just give me a little time. The man didn't smile back. Time has finished. We kill the cow early morning. If I don't see balance before midnight, forget it. He walked away. Her hands began to shake slightly. Before she could recover, the decorators approached. Madam, our boys can't come back tomorrow unless we collect our balance tonight. Her throat dried. Before she could respond, the drink supplier angrily called, Tomorrow is Christmas. If you don't complete payment tonight, I'm cancelling. I have other customers waiting. Her chest tightened. For the first time since she started this madness, panic finally cut through her pride. She went inside the house quickly, locked the bedroom door and sat on the bed, hands on her head. Her lies had finally caught up with her. She thought for a moment. There was only one place left to turn. Obinna. She dreaded it. But reality had humbled her, even if just a little. She walked slowly to the sitting room where Obinna sat silently staring at the floor like a man already mourning something. She stood in front of him quietly. For a moment, she didn't speak. For the first time in weeks, her voice did not carry pride. It carried fear. Obinna, I need help. He didn't look up immediately. Instead, he asked calmly, help for what? Her lips trembled. Words refused to come out. He finally lifted his eyes to her. Say it, he said quietly. She swallowed hard. I need money tonight. People are threatening to cancel. If they cancel, everything will scatter. Please help me. Silence. Heavy silence. Obinna stared at her without blinking. Her eyes pounded. Finally, he spoke. Where do you want me to get the money from? Her eyes filled with tears. I don't know, but please do something. He shook his head slowly. Something like what? Sell my soul, borrow shame, kneel before people, beg strangers, empty our future? His voice grew heavier. Chiamaka, I warned you, I begged you, I pleaded, you disrespected me, you ignored me, and now you want me to rescue your pride? Tears rolled down her face. It's not about pride anymore.
It's about avoiding disgrace. He stood up slowly. And when you were chasing attention, who were you thinking about? When you were borrowing money secretly, did you remember disgrace? When you were lying to people, did you think of your family? Her voice broke. Please, Obinna, just this once. His chest tightened. Not because he was angry, but because he saw the fear in her eyes. The same woman who once walked proudly, now shaking like a child. He closed his eyes for a moment, thinking deeply. When he opened them, his voice was calm. Listen to me carefully, he said. If this thing collapses tomorrow, let it collapse. Let people laugh. Let them gossip. Let them mock. Let them say whatever they want. But at least the truth will stand. We cannot sacrifice our future to maintain a lie. Her heart sank. So you won't help me? He shook his head slowly. I will not help you continue destroying this family. She stared at him like a woman watching her last hope disappear. Her hands dropped weakly. Her knees almost gave way. Tears flooded freely. For the first time since this madness began, she felt powerless. Truly powerless. Night fell. Village fireworks exploded in the sky. People sang Christmas songs. Laughter echoed everywhere. But in Chiamaka's house, fear sat quietly. She lay awake, eyes open, heart racing, mind collapsing. She imagined tomorrow. What if the cow didn't come? What if drinks didn't arrive? What if musicians refused? What if guests came and met disappointment? Her heartbeat grew louder. Meanwhile, Obinna sat outside, staring into the night sky. He wasn't happy. He wasn't celebrating. He wasn't proud of being right. His heart was heavy, too. Because no matter what happened tomorrow, one thing was already clear. Their marriage would never remain the same. Christmas morning arrived. The sun climbed slowly, bright and proud, like it came to witness something unforgettable. The village woke up with excitement. Children ran around with new clothes. Women cooked. Men laughed loudly in compounds. Church bells rang, and everyone waited eagerly for one thing: Chiamaka's big Christmas party. People had talked about it too much. Expectations were high sky. By noon, the first guests began arriving. They came dressed in their best clothes. Women wearing fine lace, men wearing starched native outfits, children running happily. Laughter filled the compound. Even those who were not invited came to see the show. They wanted to eat. They wanted to dance. They wanted to witness the biggest Christmas ever. Chiamaka walked among them, smiling confidently, but shaking inside. She greeted everyone. She hugged people. She laughed loudly. But inside her, fear was dancing. She kept pretending. She kept hoping something would somehow work out. But reality was already waiting. The first problem arrived quietly. Someone whispered in her ear, "Madam, the drinks haven't arrived." Her smile froze for a second, then returned forcefully. "They will come," she replied. She prayed silently. Minutes turned to an hour. Still no drinks. Guests noticed. People began murmuring, "Where are the drinks? I thought this party would be grand. Maybe they are still preparing." Chiamaka pretended not to hear them. Then the next problem came. The meat seller appeared. His face was hard. His voice was colder than Harmattan breeze. "Madam, no payment, no cow." Her heart dropped. For a second, she couldn't breathe. Her mouth dried. Her hands shook. Please don't do this to me. Guests are already here." He didn't even blink. "I warned you yesterday. Business is business. Merry Christmas." And just like that, he walked away. No cow, no meat, no feast. Her worst nightmare had just stepped into reality. She tried to hold herself. Okay, maybe we can still manage small. Then the musicians arrived, or rather, they came to announce their departure. One of them walked up to her. "Madam, we can't perform again. You didn't complete payment. We have other events waiting." Before she could speak, they carried their instruments and left. Silence fell slowly in the compound. No meat, no drinks, no music. Guests were just sitting, waiting, confused. The smile finally left Chiamaka's face. Sweat covered her forehead. Her chest thumped loudly. Her world began to shake. Then it happened. Someone shouted from the crowd, "Is this the big Christmas we heard about? Where is the food?" Another voice followed, "Yes, nah. Where are the drinks? Where is the cow we heard of?" People started laughing. Some mocked, some whispered loudly on purpose. Kids cried because they were hungry. Women looked irritated. Men shook their heads. A group of women who came only to gossip finally got what they wanted. They stood together laughing. So, after all the noise, this is it? She wanted to compete with Chief Okori. See disgrace. This one no be party, na empty compound festival. Laughter exploded. Not joyful laughter, mocking laughter. Her ears burned. Her eyes blurred with tears she was fighting. Her pride shattered loudly. But the worst pain was not the crowd. It was her husband. Obinna stood quietly near the corner of the compound, watching. He didn't laugh. He didn't mock. He didn't feel victorious. He simply looked heartbroken. Not because of the party, but because the woman he loved had destroyed herself. Their children stood beside him, confused and embarrassed. One of them whispered, "Daddy, let's go home. I don't like this." Obinna swallowed hard. He turned towards Chiamaka. Their eyes met for a split second. He saw something he had not seen in weeks. Regret. Real regret. Not pride, not anger, not stubbornness, just shame and regret. He closed his eyes for a moment. He couldn't watch anymore. Without another word, he turned and walked away with the children. People noticed. Her husband don't comot. Even her husband shame for her. This one pain. Chiamaka's chest broke. It felt like something stabbed right through her heart. She finally lost control. Right there, in front of everyone, she dropped to her knees. Tears burst out. Her hands trembled. Her breath shook. For the first time, the strong, proud Chiamaka looked completely defeated. Some people started pitying. Some still laughed. Some just stared. But the truth was clear. This was the greatest humiliation of her life. A humiliation she built with her own hands. The party ended without starting,
Guests started leaving one by one. No music, no food, no celebration. People would talk about this for years. The story would spread beyond the village. Her name would enter gossip history. By evening, the compound was empty. Chairs sat quietly. Canopies stood useless. Silence filled the place. A heavy silence, a painful silence. Christmas night came. Fireworks exploded in the sky from other houses. Laughter echoed from neighboring compounds. Music played loudly elsewhere. But in Chiamaka's house, Chiamaka sat alone on the cold ground of her compound, crying like a child. Every memory of pride replayed in her head. Every warning she ignored screamed loudly. Every insult she threw at her husband returned to slap her spirit. And worst of all, she didn't only embarrass herself. She embarrassed her children. She embarrassed her husband. She embarrassed her home. This was not just a failed party.
This was a fall from pride. And deep in her heart, she knew one truth. Tomorrow and many days after, she would face the consequences. By the next morning, Christmas was over, but the consequences had only just begun. The sun rose gently, but for Chiamaka, nothing felt bright. Her compound was still scattered from yesterday's disaster. Chairs still stood useless. Decorations hung like silent witnesses. The ground still carried footprints of people who had laughed at her. The village was quiet, but her shame was loud. Neighbors passed her house slowly just to peep. Some shook their heads, some whispered, some laughed silently. Word had already spread beyond Umoma. Nearby villages now knew. Chiamaka disgraced herself on Christmas Day. It was everywhere. Women discussed it at the stream. Men discussed it at palm wine joints. Youth laughed about it in corners. Children used it as joke. Her house had become a story. Inside, Chiamaka sat on the floor of her bedroom, hair rough, eyes swollen from crying. She hadn't slept. Every time she closed her eyes, the laughter returned to her head. Every time she moved, guilt stabbed her chest again. But embarrassment wasn't the only consequence. Reality began knocking. The first knock came early morning. Bam, bam, bam. She jumped. "Who is that?" she asked weakly. No answer, just more loud banging. She dragged herself to the door and opened it. 3 men stood there, the decorators. Their faces were hard. Their voices were colder than yesterday. "Madam, we need our balance. Christmas has finished. We want our money now." Her throat tightened. I don't have it yet," she whispered. The second man laughed bitterly. "Ha! So you had money to boast, but no money to pay debt? Please," she begged, "give me time. I will get it." "No more time," they said. Without waiting for her permission, they walked past her and entered the compound. They began packing chairs, removing decorations, taking whatever belonged to them. People passing stopped to watch. More shame, more pain, more humiliation. Before she could process that, another visitor arrived. The drink supplier, then the food seller, then the sound equipment man, then the cow seller's boys, all angry, all demanding payment, all talking loudly. Soon, noise filled the compound. "Pay us our money. You embarrassed us yesterday. You think business is play?" They didn't care about her feelings. They didn't care about her tears. They only cared about their money. And they were right. She owed them. This wasn't gossip anymore. This wasn't pride talk anymore. This wasn't competition anymore. This was real life debt. She tried to speak, but her voice failed. She tried to stand, but her knees shook. She broke. Right there in the compound, she cried openly. Not to impress anybody, not to manipulate anybody, but because her life was collapsing in front of her eyes. Then came the worst knock of all. Slow, heavy, dangerous. She knew that knock. Her heart stopped beating properly. She turned slowly. Standing at the gate was the lone man. Dark glasses, straight face, hand in pocket, 2 men behind him. Fear gripped her soul. He didn't shout. He didn't argue. He just spoke calmly. "Good morning, madam. I came to collect my money. Today is deadline." Her breath shook. I don't have it," she whispered. Silence. Dangerous silence. He looked around the compound slowly. at the decorations, at the canopies, at the people complaining, at her shaking body. Then he nodded once. "No problem," he said simply. "Since you don't have money, we will take what we can." His boys walked in and began removing anything valuable they could see. The television, the generator, the freezer, household items. One of them entered the bedroom and dragged out her wardrobe. She screamed, "Please, please, stop. I will pay. I will pay. Just give me time." They ignored her. Neighbors gathered at the gate like spectators at a show. Some pitied, some enjoyed the drama. This life, pride is bad. She wanted to show power. Now, see, God has humbled her. Voices stabbed her like knives. Her heart shattered again. She didn't just lose respect. She didn't just lose reputation. She was losing everything. Her children watched, their eyes wide, their spirits crushed. They didn't understand death fully, but they understood shame. Their own mother was being humiliated publicly. Where was Obinna? He stayed inside the room initially, silent, hurt, broken, not because he wanted her to suffer, but because the pain was too much to watch. Finally, when the lone men dragged more property out, he rushed out. "That's enough," he shouted. They ignored him. He grabbed one. The man pushed him back easily. The lone man raised his hand slightly. "Don't try to be a hero," he warned coldly. "Your wife took money. She signed. This is not our fault. It is her pride that brought her here." Obinna stopped, because it was true. He turned slowly and looked at Chiamaka. She couldn't lift her head, her once proud face now drowning in tears, her once strong voice now begging like a helpless child, her once confident posture now bent in shame. He felt pain, deep pain. He loved this woman. He married her. He trusted her. He built a life with her, and she almost destroyed everything. Not because of hunger, not because of sickness, not because of misfortune, but because of pride. Finally, the lone men left. The compound was almost empty. Household items gone, neighbors returning to their homes, dead men gone. Silence fell again. But this silence wasn't calm. It was heavy. It was painful. It was humiliating. Chiamaka was remaining on the ground, crying, shaking, broken. Slowly, Obinna walked towards her. She expected shouting, she expected insults, she expected anger. Instead, he just spoke quietly. "Now you see, now you understand. Pride does not make anyone bigger. It destroys everything it touches. Respect, marriage, peace, dignity." Her crying grew louder. "Obinna, I am sorry. I am so, so sorry. I have disgraced you. I have disgraced our children. I have disgraced myself. I thought I needed people to respect me. I didn't know I was destroying everything." He stood silently. Then he sighed deeply. "I warned you because I love you, not because I wanted to control you. But you chose strangers over your own husband. You chose praise over wisdom. You chose competition over peace." She crawled to his feet and held his leg. "Please, don't leave me. Don't hate me. Don't give up on me. I deserve every insult, every laughter, every shame. But please, don't abandon me." Her voice broke. For the first time since this disaster started, she spoke truthfully. No excuses, no pride, no arguments, just pure regret. Obinna knelt slowly and lifted her up gently. "I will not leave you," he said softly, "but healing will not be easy. Respect must be rebuilt, trust must be rebuilt, and most importantly, you must rebuild yourself." She nodded repeatedly. "I will. I promise. I have learned. This pain has taught me. I don't want noise again. I don't want competition. I just want peace. I just want my family." He looked into her swollen eyes. "Then you must live differently. From now on, we do life together. We plan together. We decide together. No more secrets. No more show-off. No more pride." She nodded again. "Yes, I promise." Silence returned, but this silence felt different. It wasn't destruction anymore. It was the beginning of humility, the beginning of change. Christmas had broken Chiamaka, but maybe it also prepared her to be rebuilt, not as the proud queen of the village, but as a wiser wife